Hello and welcome back to this YouTube channel. Today we are going to discuss few more articles related to international relations about the current affairs which happened from last 1 year. So we will discuss some important articles which are important for our UPSC exams. We would try to gather as much information as possible in this discussion. So, without wasting any time, let's jump to our first discussion. It is about G20 summit, which was held recently in India last year, exactly. Now, let us discuss about it. Here, as the slide presents us, we can see from there, India recently held the presidency of the G20 summit for the first time at New Delhi. What was the theme of this? It is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, or which is translated as One Earth, One Family, One Future. Let us discuss what are the important things which we can extract from this summit. What were the important developments from it, and what were the important agreements from this summit? Let's discuss over them. First, before going to that, we will discuss a little uh, bit about G20 as a whole. We would see what it is about, how it works, when it came into existence, and who are the members of it. As from the slide, we can see that it is basically an international economic corporation which meets regularly to discuss the most pressing issues facing the global economy. It is an economic forum. It discusses the economic situations happening globally. And about Genesis, it was founded in 1999 following the Asian financial crisis, uh, and it came as a forum for finance ministers and central bank governors to discuss global economic and financial issues. Its purpose: it plays an important role in shaping and strengthening global architecture and governance on all major international economic issues. About its working, we should know that G20 summit held annually under the leadership of a rotating presidency. Presidency is supported by the troika, which in troika we have the uh, year previous year presidency country, current year, and the uh, incoming presidency. As of 2023, we have Indonesia. It was held before India. It was held in Indonesia, then India, and then Brazil. It consists of two parallel tracks, the finance track and the Sherpa track, and also it does not have any permanent secretariat or staff. These are few important points which we should know. And about the countries, we should try to remember all the countries of this G20 forum. As we can see it from here, US, China, UK, India, Indonesia, Europe, European Union, African Union, these are the two international organizations which are part of it, European Union and African Union, and also these are the other countries. Only two international organizations are part of it, that is European Union and African Union was added recently. Let's move forward and see more about the summit. Key outcomes of the summit, there was an unanimous adoption of the G20 New Delhi leaders joint declaration, which we will discuss in further slides. There was launch of Global Biofuel Alliance to increase the consumption of biofuels, and memorandum of understanding to establish India Middle East Europe economic corridor. Also, former inclusion of African Union as a permanent member of the G20. Other outcomes of the summit are as in this, proposal to launch a G20 satellite mission for environment and climate observation with an aim to help the countries of the global south, and also global regulatory framework for crypto assets and use of artificial intelligence responsibly. Also census on G20 framework for GDPIR, which is Global Digital Public Infrastructure Repository respectively. So these are few outcomes which we would discuss in detail in upcoming slides. So don't worry about that. Let's move forward and see what it brings. What is the significant first before going to these outcomes of the G20 summit? We should know that what is the significance of G20 for in the present world. It supports global financial stability as it plays a key role in promoting global financial stability through financial regulations, crisis prevention, and management. It addresses global development challenges. It has made efforts to address a range of development challenges, including poverty reduction, infrastructure financing, and sustainable development. Also, human resource development and employment, as at the 2014 summit in Brisbane, G20 leaders committed to reduce the gender gap in labor force participation by 25% by the year 2025 compared to 2012. Also, recast bilateral ties, bilateral meetings on the summit sideline have occasionally led to major international agreements. So this is the significance of G20 as we can see it from here. It supports global financial stability, it addresses global development, it uh, it aims to build human resource development and employment. It helps to reduce the gender gap in the labor force by encouraging more women to join it, and also it recasts bilateral ties. And let's see what is the significance of a G20 presidency for India. It was one of the major events in this decade, and we can see it would showcase the leadership of India, as India is aiming to showcase its leadership, and it was the great chance for India to showcase the leadership as India got the chance to prove its leadership role in steering discussions, building consensus, as well as offering solutions to address developmental and geopolitical issues. And also, India would act as a voice for the global south, as we had discussed it in our recent classes. Through its presidency, India was able to embed priorities of the global south in the larger global conversations and advance its own credentials as a voice of the global south. As we know that India's initiative led to the African Union being accepted as a permanent member of the G20. Also, it brings huge economic opportunities to India. India's G20 presidency is expected to translate into trade and investment opportunities for Indian business global expansion. And also we can see it would expand India's footprint by hosting the summit. India was able to demonstrate its contemporary technology advancement and its heritage, culture, tradition, enhancing India's stature and status in the global politics. Also, it would build trust, trust for India's heritage of being the moderating influence, helped in building consensus and lessen the east-west polarization and the north-south divide. And it would help India in steering global agenda and reshaping world order. India used as we can see, India has used this opportunity to reshape the global agenda based on its priorities and promote its interests in the international stage. These were few significances for of G20 presidency for India, how it would help India in establishing as a global leader, how India would showcase its voice for the global south, how it would bring economic opportunities to India, how it would expand India's footprint and build India's trust, and how it would help India in steering global agenda and reshaping world order. What are India's G20 priorities? these are few G20 priorities for India. Let's discuss about them. Green development, climate, finance and life, accelerate inclusive and resilient growth, accelerating progress on SDGs, technological transformation and digital public infrastructure, multilateral institutions for the 21st century, and women-led development. So this was the huge opportunity for India to showcase its leadership in decision making, in solving problems, in including global south, uh, uh, distributing the functions and helping in reshaping the future for least developed countries, and helped in the inclusion of women in uh, it would help India in the inclusion of women in the workforce, and it would promote gender neutrality. And this was the huge opportunity for India. In a nutshell, we can say this was the huge opportunity for India to showcase its leadership in all the dimensions. Yeah, let's discuss about the challenges. We have challenges in the G20. We have divergent issues and priorities among member countries, which can make it difficult to reach a consensus on key issues and to promote a coherent approach. As we can see that we have different countries part of this organization, and they have different issues. So this is one of the challenge uh, to converge their intentions, or we can say to converge them to a single goal. It would be a challenging. Also, lack of effective power, as G20 is not a legally binding institution. Also, geopolitical tensions between the countries in the G20, for example, US, China, India, China, and many other countries. Also, we can see there is inadequate response to global challenges, as G20 has faced criticism for its perceived lack of action on key global challenges such as climate change and inequality. We have limited accountability and transparency. It operates largely behind closed doors with limited opportunities for public scrutiny and accountability, and lacks a formal charter. And also, we have rising protectionism. There is a growing trend towards protectionism and trade tensions between major economies. So, these are few challenges related to the G20. Now let's jump to our uh, main topic of today's discussion. These are about the key outcomes of the summit of G20 summit. Let us discuss about. First, we have to discuss about the New Delhi Declaration. In it, we have few major points to discuss. Let's start it from the beginning. The theme is accelerating progress on SDGs, and let's discuss about it. It endorsed the G20 principle on harnessing data for development, and welcomed the decision to launch the Data for Development capacity building initiatives, strengthening the agricultural market information system, and the group on Earth observations, global agricultural monitoring, which is abbreviated as GeoGLAM, for greater transparency to avoid food price volatility, and emphasis on adopting a One Health approach. This comes under accelerating progress on SDGs. Then we have strong, sustainable, balanced, and inclusive growth. G20 2023 Financial Inclusion Action Plan. It aimed at advancing financial inclusion for individuals and MSMEs. Adoption of G20 generic framework for mapping global value chains to help members identify risk and build resilience, and establishment of the Startup 20 engagement group. Then we have women empowerment. Here we have to we should know that creation of a full-fledged working group on women's empowerment to prioritize gender equality, women empowerment and leadership. Then we have multilateral institutions for the 21st century, Agreement on United Nations General Assembly 75 and UNSC reforms for the first time in G20. Also, roadmap for implementing the recommendations of the G20 independent review of the multilateral development bank's capital adequacy framework. Then we have technological transformation and digital public infrastructure. Here we should know that proposal of the One Future Alliance, a voluntary initiative for supporting implementing DPI in low and low middle income countries. Also, India plans to build and maintain a global digital public infrastructure repository, a virtual repository of DPI voluntarily shared by G20 members, and also joint roadmap to support a coordinated and comprehensive policy and regulatory framework for crypto assets. And here we have international taxation. It reaffirms commitment to twin pillars of international package, which is profit allocation and nexus and global minimum taxation. Then we have green development. It encourage efforts to triple renewable energy capacity by 2030. Let's move forward. Then we have act for a sustainable future. Recognition of the Here we should know that recognition of the need for about USD 5.8 to 5.9 trillion in the pre-2030 period for developing countries to implement their NDCs. Also called to set an ambitious, traceable, transparent, new collectible, quantifiable goal of climate finance in 2024. Launch of initiatives like the resource efficiency, circular economy, industry coalition, travel for life, etc. For planet, people, peace, and prosperity, we there are a few things we should know. Build a consensus on Ukraine issue in line with the UN Charter. States agreed to uphold the principles of territorial integrity and sovereignty, address the adverse impact of Russia-Ukraine war on global economy, and welcome constructive initiatives that support a comprehensive, just, and durable peace in Ukraine. Also, we should know about the promotion of thematic roadmaps and principles. Here we have to know that Jaipur call for action for enhancing MSMEs access to information to promote the integration of MSMEs into international trade. We have Chennai high level principles for sustainable and resilient blue ocean based economy. We have Gandhinagar implementation roadmap at Gandhinagar Information Platform for strengthening the G20 Global Land Initiative. We have G20 Global Land Initiative aims to prevent, halt, and reverse land degradation with an ambition to reduce degraded land by 50% by 2040. Then we have Deccan high level principles on good security and nutrition. We have Goa roadmap for tourism as a vehicle for achieving the sustainable development goals to achieve sustainable tourism. It has 5 priorities, which is green tourism, digitalization, skills, tourism, MSME, skills. Then we have tourism, MSMEs, and destination management. These are the 5 priorities. This was about the Delhi Declaration. I hope you would remember some important points in it and it may be helpful for you. Let's discuss more about India Middle East Economic Corridor. Europe Economic Corridor. It was also the outcome of the G20 summit. About it, the Memorandum of Understanding to establish the India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor was signed between India, US, and Saudi Arabia, European Union, UAE, France, Germany, and Italy. About IMEC, IMEC will consist of railroad, ship-to-rail networks, road and sea, and road transport routes and networks extending across 2 corridors. The East Corridor connects India to the Arabian Gulf. The Northern Corridor connects the Arabian Gulf to the Europe. So it is basically the connectivity project which connects India to the Europe through Middle East region. What is the aim of IMEC? To provide a reliable and cost-effective cross-border ship to rail transit network, enabling goods and services to transit to, from, and between India, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, these countries which are the part of it. Along the railway route, participants also intend to enable the laying of cable for electricity and digital connectivity, as well as pipe for clean hydrogen export. Also, the project forms part of the Partnership of Global Infrastructure and Investment (PG2). It was announced in 2021 and during the G7 summit in the UK, and is seen as counter to China's Belt and Road Initiative. The other projects under PG2 is Trans-African Corridor. Its aim is to connect to provide a reliable and cost-effective cross-border connection between these member countries of the IMEC, which would help in laying cables for electricity and also for digital connectivity. And also, the project forms the part of the Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investment. Partnership for Global, which is PG II or PG2. This partnership for global infrastructure and investment, it was announced in 2021 during the G7 summit in the UK, and this is seen as the counter to China's Belt and Road Initiative. What is the significance of IMEC? Let's discuss about it. It is a crucial milestone in the shift of global order towards Eurasia. It signifies that the commitment of the US, Europe, and emerging powers such as India, Saudi Arabia, UAE to promoting a more balanced and interconnected Eurasian order, trade facilitation and acceptability. It would create a consolidated trade route that will reduce trade costs, promote market access, and encourage investment opportunities between the participating countries. It would help in enhanced regional connectivity, improved transportation infrastructure, cross-border cooperation, energy supply and logistic efficiencies will enhance regional connectivity. Economic unity, it is expected to act as an effective medium of economic integration. It gives the diplomatic collaboration and geopolitical stability. Close economic ties resulting from the corridor will incentivize cooperation on security, counterterrorism, and regional stability. It would help in securing regional supply chains. It will make the global supply chains more resilient, and it would help in sustainable development as it aims to promote clean energy development and expand energy grids and telecommunications, advance clean energy technologies, and improve internet access for all. Let us discuss about IMEC in relation with China's Belt and Road Initiative. In terms of objective, both are mega transnational projects, and these both mega transnational projects are similar. China's New Silk Route is larger in terms of scale. China's Belt and Road Initiative is larger in terms of scale as compared to IMEC. Also, about China's Belt and Road Initiative, it was announced in 2013. China has signed BRI cooperation documents with more than 150 countries and over 30 international organizations and created over 3,000 projects. What are the expected benefits of IMEC over BRI? About IMEC, its design is based on collaborative consultation with all participants. Whoever the participant is in this, there would be a collaborative consultation. Every country would be consulted, and their view would be taken and respected. Whereas BRI is centrally designed, and what China wants, they would do that. And what are the benefits for the common? It would be IMEC. It would be for the common benefit of all in the region, while as for China, it is primarily serves China's interests. BRI primarily serves China's interests. About employment, it would focus on generating. IMEC would focus on generating employment for the local population. while as BRI it mainly generates employment for Chinese companies. About debt practices, process to follow the best international debt practices. The IMEC it proposes to follow the best international debt practices, while as BRI it is basically criticized for putting unsustainable debt burdens on participating nations. Let's discuss what are the challenges and considerations with the IMEC. Here, first, we have to discuss, we should know about the complex geopolitics of the region, and especially of Middle East. Here, we have countries like Saudi Arabia, Israel, which do not go well with each other. So, and the geopolitics is very different there, and usually this region is under tension, and this project can be hampered by their relationship. And also we have existing rivalries. As a strategic competitor, China may seek to divert trade and investment towards its own corridor, potentially undermining the effectiveness of IMEC. Further, IMEC corridor being an alternative land route may pose a potential threat to Egypt's dominance in the region, diverting trade away from the Suez Canal. Also, we have some logistic challenges regarding this. As we can see from here, establishing a multimodal network across multiple countries with diverse geographic terrains, regulatory procedures, transportation protocols, financial mechanisms, and infrastructural capabilities will be challenging. We have security concerns, as this region is often uh, susceptible to various security threats, including terrorism, conflicts between nations, and other political instabilities. We have challenge with multimodal routes. Also, the IMEC consists of land and sea sanctions, which may escalate costs in comparison to exclusively land or maritime routes. And also, about one of the challenges is financial commitment. There is a lack of commitment regarding the financial cost, which is expected to be finalized in the coming months. Then the other provision of the G20 summit was African Union as a permanent member of the G20. First, we should know about what African Union is. It is a continental body consisting of the 55 member states that make up the countries of the African continent. It was launched in 2002 as a successor to the Organization of African Unit. Its aim is to promote Africa's growth and economic development by campaigning citizen inclusion and increased cooperation and integration of African states. If we would see the collective GDP of the African Union, it is calculated as 3 trillion with some 1.4 billion people. Why it was in the news? As we know, African Union it became the second regional organization to become a permanent member of the G20, which is the first regional organization. It is European Union, which was the first regional organization to become a part of G20, and similarly, African Union is the second regional organization to become the part of G20. What is the significance of inclusion of African Union in the G20? Here we will discuss its significance for G20, its significance in relation to India, and what is the significance, how it would help, how is it helpful for Africa. For G20, it would help in utilizing Africa's enormous potential in mitigating climate change. It would help in boosting credibility of its policies and decisions, and it would help in reinvent its image as it would make G20 more representative uh, and repurposing the G20 to be the vehicle for building a fairer, more prosperous and sustainable. For India, it would campaign the cause of global south. India's successful endorsement for inclusion of AU in the G20 solidifies its image as a voice of the global South. It would align with India's aspiration. The step aligns with India's own global aspiration to foster a multipolar world and a more equitable and representative international order. Also, it would help India in the permanent seat in UNSC, as India is keen to garner support from African Union for permanent membership of the UNSC. And also, it would help India in resource diversification, as Africa is a resource rich continent dominated by commodities like crude oil and lentils, leather, gold, and other metals. About Africa, how it is significant for Africa, it would help in inclusivity. It gives more leadership and voice to African countries on issues like global tax reforms, debt relief, climate change discussions, etc. It would help in correcting imbalance. Africa has remained a passive receiver rather than an active contributor to discussions shaping its economic destiny, and also is a sign towards growth of Africa. It a signal towards the growth of Africa. It signals the rise of a continent otherwise framed as a victim of war, extremism, hunger, and disaster. So this is the significance of inclusion of African Union in the G20 in different areas. For G20, it would make them more responsive, more representative, and it would help them. It would help in increasing, uh, in utilizing enormous potential in mitigating climate change by adding African Union in it. For India, it would help India in campaigning the cause of global South. It would help India in aligning with India's aspirations. It would help in India in garnering support from African Union for permanent membership of the UNSC, and it would help India in resource diversification. For Africa, how it would help them? It would help them in inclusivity. It would help them in correcting imbalance. They would start contributing to the global. They would be seen as a contributors to the global, activities, and also it would signal towards growth of Africa. What is the now let's discuss about the global biofuel alliance. It was launched by India along with the leaders of Singapore, Bangladesh, Italy, USA, Brazil, Argentina, Mauritius, and UAE. Please remember these countries, and remember that it was launched by India uh, with the leaders of Singapore and other countries, which are Bangladesh, Italy, USA, Brazil, Argentina, Mauritius, and UAE. And this alliance will also act as a central repository of knowledge and an export hub. What is the aim of this alliance? Its aim is to serve as a catalytic platform fostering global collaboration for the advancement and widespread adoption of biofuels. Present Global Biofuel Alliance members include 7 G20 countries, which are Argentina, Brazil, Canada, India, Italy, South Africa, USA. 4 G20 invitee countries, which are Bangladesh, Singapore, Mauritius, UAE, and 8 non G20 countries, which are Iceland, Kenya, Guyana, Palau, Seychelles, Sri Lanka, Uganda, and Finland. And we have 12 international organizations, which include World Bank, Asian Development Bank, World Economic Forum agencies, etc. So let us recap it. It was launched by India along the leaders of Singapore, Bangladesh, Italy, USA, Brazil, Argentina, Mauritius, and UAE. Presently, it has these members. We should know it has 7 G20 members, and which are presently in G20. These are Argentina, Brazil, Canada, India, Italy, South Africa, USA. 4 G20 invitee countries, which are Bangladesh, Singapore, Mauritius, UAE, and 8 non-G20 countries, which are Iceland, Kenya, Guyana, Paraguay, Seychelles, and Sri Lanka, Uganda, and Finland, and 12 international organizations, and some of them are the World Bank, Asian Development Bank, World Economic Forum, and etc. What is the significance of GBA? Develop a market for biofuels. It will ensure a stable supply of eco-fuels and create a virtual marketplace connecting industries, countries, and tech providers, enhancing demand-supply mapping. It would help in robust standards. It will facilitate the development, adoption, and implementation of internationally recognized standards and regulations to incentivize biofuels adoption and trade. It would in climate efforts, contribute to climate efforts. International Energy Agency estimates that global sustainable biofuel production would need to triple by 2030 to put the world's energy system on track towards net zero emission by 2050. Also, it would help in decarbonized transport sector. The transport sector is responsible for approximately one quarter of greenhouse gas emissions. And about awareness, it will help raise awareness about biofuels' role in reducing greenhouse gas emission. Now let's discuss about India as a global unifier. This is basically means based topic. Here we have to discuss about the theme, which was Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which means one earth, one family, and one future. How this theme represents India and how it brings the idea of global unifier for India. Let's discuss about it. As idea of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, meaning Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam means the world is one family. It affirms the value of all life, whether humans, animals, plants, microorganisms, whatever they are, and their interconnectedness on the planet Earth and in the wider universe. This is a Upanishadic philosophy of which Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is a representation, and it emphasizes the divinity of every living being. It believes that every human being is divine, thus there is no cause for conflict. It is a progressive thought. It is an all-embracing outlook that encourages us to progress as one universal family, transcending borders, languages, and ideologies. About its origin, the phrase Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is made up of three Sanskrit words, which is Vasudha, which means earth, Iva, like, and Kutumbakam, large extended family. If we need to know about the mention of this verse, it is found in Maha Upanishad. It may be asked in the exam. UPSC may ask anything, so we should know that, as it was the theme of G20 summit. We should know about that. It is mentioned in Maha Upanishad, and is further referred to in the Hitopadesha written by Narayana Pandit. Also, the idea of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is also reflected in the Vedic sayings, which is Yatra Vishwam Bhavati Ikanidam, or the world is a nest. So this was about the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Here we learned about its meaning, which is the world is one family. This family affirms to all living beings, whether they are microorganisms, plants, animals, and their interdependence, and how they are important, how they are interconnected to the world, to the earth itself. And also, it believes that every human being is divine, thus there is no cause for conflict. It is about its mention, we see its mention in Maha Upanishad, and also in Hitopadesha, which is written by Narayana Pandit. And it is also idea of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is also reflected in the Veda sayings, which is Yatra Visham Bhavati Ika Nidam, which is the world is a nest. About now, let's discuss more about it. How India is India is acting as a global unifier through this ideology. Here we should know that India is driving solutions towards key global issues. This is reflected in the following efforts, value systems, and cultural elements. India is providing these solutions. We have environmental conservations at the root of Vasudeva is Vasudha, which is our planet Earth. India is promoting a sustainable environment with mission life, lifestyle for environment, net zero emission targets, reclamation of degraded lands, and multilateral initiatives. Also, in digital public infrastructure, India has established its foundational DPI consisting of identity, payment, and data exchange layers. India is helping developing countries to adopt, build, and scale DPI to unlock inclusive growth. Also, energy transition. India is supporting global energy transition through initiatives such as the International Solar Alliance and Global Biofuel Alliance. And also here we can see inclusive multilateralism. India is consistently pushing to boost multilateralism by pursuing reform of global institutions. In this pursuit, India held the voice of the Global South Summit and pushed for the inclusion of the African Union as a permanent member of the G20. About capacity building under Indian Technical and Economic Cooperation Program, over 2 lakh professionals from 161 partner countries have benefited since 1964. India pushed for the launch of the Data for Development Capacity Building Initiative for the development of the Global South, and also yoga. Pursuant to India's quest, the UN General Assembly declared June 20 as the International Day of Yoga. It fosters a culture of inclusiveness, fraternity, and global family unity, uniting humanity. It is also an example of India's soft power ability to persuade others to perform something without any form of force. About culture, India's G20 presidency provided ground for showcasing unique and diverse cultures from different regions and nations to strengthen relationships, enhance socio-economic cooperation, and promote national interests. Now, let's move to our next topic of today's discussion. It is India ASEAN. Why it is in news? As recently the Prime Minister of India attended the 20th ASEAN India Summit and the 18th East ASEAN Asia Summit in Jakarta, Indonesia. About Association of Southeast Asian Nations ASEAN, we should know that it was established in 1967 with signing of ASEAN Declaration Bangkok Declaration, also called by Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, and Thailand. Its members are Brunei Darussalam, Malaysia, Cambodia, Philippines, Indonesia, Singapore, Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, PDR, and Vietnam. So it is South Asian Association basically. What is the purpose of ASEAN? We should know that its purpose is to accelerate economic growth, social progress, and cultural development, promote regional peace and stability, promote active collaboration and mutual assistance on matters of common interest, provide assistance to each other in form of training and research facilities. What is institutional mechanism? ASEAN chairmanship rotates annually based on alphabetical order of the English names of member countries. So we should know that it is membership rotates on the basis of alphabetical order or alphabetical names of its members. About ASEAN Summit, highest policy making body is ASEAN. In ASEAN, comprising the heads of the states of government of ASEAN member states. ASEAN Summit meetings held twice annually, and its secretariat is in Indonesia, Jakarta. In Jakarta, which is in Indonesia. About its regional cooperation mechanism, we have ASEAN plus 3 cooperation, ASEAN member states, China, Japan, and Republic of Korea. Then we have East Asia Summit, which is ASEAN member states, Australia, China, India, Japan, New Zealand, Republic of Korea, Russian Federation, and USA. So these are regional cooperation mechanisms to it. What are the key highlights of ASEAN India Summit? In it, India presented a 12-point proposal for strengthening India-ASEAN cooperation. Some of them are establishing multimodal connectivity and economic corridor linking Southeast Asia, India, West Asia, and Europe, sharing India's digital public infrastructure stack with ASEAN partners. Also, ASEAN India Fund for a Digital Future focuses on cooperation in digital transformation and financial connectivity. Invitation to ASEAN countries to join the Global Center for Traditional Medicine and Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure. Also, AITIGA India emphasized the need to complete the review of the ASEAN India Trade in Goods Agreement, which is abbreviated as AITIGA, in a time bound manner. This AITIGA review is expected to make AITIGA more user friendly, simple, and trade facilitative for business as well as support for sustainable and inclusive growth. And here are some key highlights of the East Asia Summit. It reviewed the implementation of the East Asia Summit Plan of Action 2018 and 22 to 2018 to 22 and welcomed the adoption of the new East Asia Summit Plan of Action 2024 to 28. In it, India reaffirmed ASEAN centrality in the Indo-Pacific and called for ensuring a free, open, and rule-based Indo-Pacific. About East Asia Summit Plan of Action 2024 to 2008, we should know that mainstreaming and implementation of the ASEAN outlook on the Indo-Pacific AOIP. It is one of the provision of this plan of action, East Asia Summit Plan of Action, and also it reinforces the centrality of ASEAN and ASEAN-led mechanisms as a driving force with East Asia Summit. It gives emphasis on strengthening partnerships through cross-sectorial collaboration that include efforts in furthering the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals. Now we have to discuss about the Abraham Accords. It was launched 3 years before when it was launched. So in last year it completed its 3 years. About Abraham Accords, it refers to the collective agreement between the United States, the United Arab Emirates, and Israel, which was signed in September 2020. These accords were later extended to the countries of Sudan, Bahrain, and Morocco also. This agreement marks the first normalization of ties between Israel and an Arab country since Jordan. Jordan was the last country to normalize ties with Israel before Abraham Accord in 1994, and Egypt was the first Arab state to sign a peace deal with Israel in 1979. As per the agreement, the UAE and Bahrain will establish embassies, exchange ambassadors, cooperate and work together with Israel across a range of sectors including tourism, trade, healthcare, and security. Why this is named as Abraham Accord? As Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, they are the major monotheistic religions in the world, and they share their roots to Prophet Ibrahim salam, or we can say in English we call him Prophet Abraham. So they share Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. They share their roots to Prophet Ibrahim. That's why to give them मतलब कि उनको एक सोच देने के लिए कि मतलब ऐसी सोच जिससे वो थोड़ा यूनिफाई कर पाए खुद को. Because of that, this accord was named as Abraham Accord. What is the significance of Abraham Accord for India? It would help in a regional cooperation. Accord have laid the foundation for extended regional and multinational cooperation. A concrete illustration of this is the establishment of the I2U2, which is Israel, India, the UAE, and the US. The focus I2U2 group. The focus of I2U2 will be on areas such as water, energy, transportation, space, health, and food security, and it would bring more economic opportunities as the normalization of relations between Israel and Arab countries would pave way for India to establish its economic ties more freely. And the vibrant Indian diaspora in the Gulf now has the convenience of direct flights between the UAE, Bahrain, and Israel. Now we have to discuss about the last topic of today's discussion. It is the India-Saudi Arabia relation. Why it was in news, as we can see from here, the Indian Prime Minister and Saudi Crown Prince co-chaired the first summit level meeting of the India-Saudi Arabia Strategic Partnership Council. Of this council first summit level meeting was co-chaired by Indian PM and Saudi Prince. What are the key highlights of this meeting? Decision to expedite the implementation of the 50 billion West Coast refinery project. It will involve the construction of a 60 million ton refinery cum petrochemical complex on the Maharashtra coast. It will be a collaborative effort between India and Saudi Arabia and Abu Dhabi. Also, discussions regarding possible cooperation in various infrastructure sectors, including the power grid, gas grid, optical grids, and fiber networks. Also, MOUs were signed in the fields of new and renewable energy, digitalization, electronic manufacturing, enhancing bilateral investment, seawater desalination, etc. About India and Saudi Arabia Strategic Partnership Council, we should know that it was set up in 2019, and also India is the fourth country with which Riyadh formed such a partnership after the UK, France, and China. So from here we can understand that such partnerships, Saudi Arabia has already such partnership with other countries, which are UK, France, and China, and India is the fourth country. What is the aim of this India-Saudi Arabia Strategic Partnership Council? Its aim is to establish a high-level council to steer the Indo-Saudi relationship. It has two main pillars: the Committee on Political Security, Social and Cultural Cooperation, and the Committee on Economy and Investment. So about this India-Saudi Arabia Strategic Partnership, we should know that it was set up in 2009, and also India is the fourth country with which Riyadh has had formal, Saudi Arabia has formed such relationship. Its aim is what is the aim of this strategic partnership? Its aim is to establish a high-level council to steer the Indo-Saudi relationship. It has two main pillars, which are the Committee on Political Security, Social and Cultural Cooperation, and the Committee on Economy and Investment. Moving forward, let's discuss about what is the significance of Saudi Arabia for India. First, we would see what is the economic partnership. Trade with Saudi Arabia accounted for 4.53% of India's total trade in financial year 2023. About energy security, Saudi Arabia is key partner for ensuring India's energy security and was the third largest crude and petroleum product source for financial 23. So from here we understand that Saudi Arabia is third largest crude and petroleum product source for India. Also we have geostrategical significance also. Saudi Arabia's strategic location in West Asia makes it crucial to India's foreign policy priorities in the region, including advancing India's Look West policy and cooperation on the proposed India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor (IMEC), which we discussed earlier. And also we have defense and security significance also. We have security cooperation between both countries. Both countries uh, 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 Security cooperation between both countries is significant in combating terrorism and it is financing, as well as in the areas of cyber security, maritime security, combating transnational crime, narcotics, and drug trafficking. We have shared interest in multilateral forums and organizations as Saudi Arabia supports India's call for comprehensive reforms of the United Nations Security Council. Then we have trade agreements like Saudi Arabia can play a key role in expediting the stalled India Gulf Cooperation Council free trade agreement negotiations. Also, Indian diaspora, there are more than 2.4 million Indian expatriates gainfully employed in Saudi Arabia. We have cultural linkage Saudi, as Saudi is home to the holy cities of Makkah and Medina, known for the annual Hajj and Umrah pilgrimages. This was about the significance of Saudi Arabia for India. Let us discuss about the overview of India-Saudi relationship. We had started our diplomatic relations in 1947, and the bilateral relationships evolved to a strategic partnership in 2010, which is very recently. Our bilateral trade, India is Saudi Arabia's second largest trade partner, and Saudi Arabia is India's fourth largest trade partner. And also about bilateral exercise, we have Al Muhid Al Hind, which is a bilateral exercise between India and Saudi Arabia. So this was about today's discussion. I hope you liked this discussion and it was helpful for you. So let me recap what we discussed today. Our first topic was about India and G20. In it, we discussed the key outcomes of this summit, which is New Delhi Declaration. We discussed about IMEC. We discussed about African Union as permanent member of the G20, and we discussed about Biofuel Alliance. Then we discussed about India as a global unifier. Then we discussed about India-ASEAN relationship. We discussed about Abraham Accords. And finally, we discussed about India-Saudi relationships. I hope this would be helpful for you, and I hope the information given in these slides is more than enough for you in clearing your exam. Thank you for having me. I wish best of luck for you guys in the future. Oh, sorry, I had forgot to discuss challenges in this relationship between India and Saudi. We have regional conflicts in the Middle East. We should know that the complex and multi-dimensional politics of Middle East region pose a challenge. We have diaspora issues like exploitation of Indian workers. Saudi Arabia's policies to provide more jobs to its citizens and more tax on migrants hampers bilateral relations in the field of labor and human resources. Also, the influence of Pakistan, as we had seen Saudi Arabia's historical link with Pakistan, that may cause an issue. Also, here energy dependency, as India is highly dependent on Saudi Arabia for crude and natural gas imports. Also, and OPEC countries charge Asian premium extra charges from Asian countries while selling oil in comparison to Western countries. And about trade deficit, India's trade deficit with Saudi reached an all-time high in the fiscal year 2022-23. These are some challenges related to our relationship with Saudi Arabia. Let us recap it once more. We have there are regional conflicts between, for example, Saudi Arabia and Iran, and as we know that Iran is our strategic partner since millennium. So our relation with Saudi Arabia, this may hamper the relation with Iran, and it may have worse impact on the relation with it may pose threats to this relationship with Saudi Arabia also, or Iran's impact on us may impose threats on this relationship. And also we had seen the diaspora issues, the Indian people who are living in Saudi Arabia, who are working there. We see that how the Saudi government or the companies there, they exploit the Indian workers, how they are forced to work extra hours and paid less. We had seen how more tax is collected from them, and other human uh, uh, issues we had seen there. And as we know that Saudi and Pakistan, they had a huge historical link, the close ties between them. It may hamper this relationship. And about energy dependency, as we are highly dependent for crude oil and natural gas imports on Saudi Arabia. And these OPEC countries, we should know that they charge Asia premium, which is extra charge from Asian countries, extra tax while selling oil in comparison to the Western countries. Also, our trade deficit was all-time high in 2022-23 fiscal year. So these are some challenges related to this relationship. I hope you understood it, and I hope this was enough for you in your exam.